Hello, this is Terry with Fortres Grand Corporation, and today we're going to talk about Clean Slate Complete, Desktop Security Redefined. Today we'll take a look at the Clean Slate Complete features, how Clean Slate Complete works, as well as getting started with Clean Slate Complete, where we'll see how to sign up, sign in, and download the software, and how to configure the security settings. So Clean Slate Complete is the combination of Fortres 101 and Clean Slate, where you can secure desktop items, you can secure or clean up files and folders, you can secure and clean up the registry, and you can also restrict access to websites. It basically merges both the restrictive security and the non-restrictive security and gives you the option of selecting your preference or any combination of the two. The settings are web-based, and this is designed to better support computers that are occasionally connected. The nice part about the settings being web-based is that the security is consistent and reliable regardless of the network, and you don't need a central control server. So if you have laptops that are being taken off the network and they don't have access to your internal LAN, they're still going to be able to get access to the settings that are hosted in the web. We've also redesigned the interface so that it's web-based. It's easier to use and more intuitive, lets you see and configure settings based on the functionality instead of just having a list of options. You can also remotely configure the settings because it is web-based, so you don't have to be on your organization's network. You can do it when you're traveling or at home or wherever you might happen to be. And there is some ability to remotely view diagnostics through the web interface. That does require you to be on the same subnet or at least have a connection to the computer that you're trying to view the diagnostics, but it does prevent you from having to physically go to that computer and get a connection interactively. Clean Slate Complete is composed of three main areas. There are user experiences, and this is the security settings for the user when they log in. You assign a user experience to a computer group and any number of users or groups or LDAP containers. There are templates available that you can use as a starting point. So if you want restrictive security, you can just import the Fortres 101 default settings. If you want non-restrictive security, you can import Clean Slate default settings. And then again, this applies to the user. Application compatibility is where you configure settings so that applications can run even if the user experience is restricting access to the file system or the registry. And so what this does is allows applications to work properly when that security is active, and you group these together by the application. The easiest example would be Office. You can configure Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all in the same application so that all the settings are stored together and easier to maintain. And we also have an application compatibility gallery where we've got common applications already configured, and you can just download the settings and put them into your application compatibility settings so you don't have to enter them in manually. The third major area of Clean Slate Complete are computer groups, and this is where you can divide your computers into manageable groups and use the groups to maybe assign tasks or narrow the scope of a user experience down so that if you want users when they sign in on a computer in the media center to have certain settings, but when they sign in to a computer in a different lab, they have different settings there, you can do that through the computer groups. You can also assign tasks through the computer group, and you can have a computer be in as many groups as you want, so you're not limited to just a single group for a computer. And so it allows you to break down the different computers in your organization and make it more manageable. As I said, there are scheduled tasks that you can associate with a computer group or assign to an individual computer. And this is expanded a lot and has a lot of flexibility. You can set up tasks that start as soon as possible at a scheduled time, or they start at the next reboot. And then you can also set up tasks to recur once, daily, weekly, or every time the computer boots. You can also schedule these in advance. So if you were going to have computers that were going to be in maintenance mode in a couple of weeks, you can set that up inside of the scheduled task so that that task only applies 2 weeks from now. So there's a lot of flexibility again with the scheduled task, and there's a lot of different types of tasks you can run. You can execute scripts, you can have the computers do wake on LAN or shut down, you can do PowerShell, VB script, you can run executables. There's a lot of different options in the scheduled tasks. There's also the notion of units inside of Clean Slate Complete, and this allows you to break up your organization and delegate the management to different administrators. So if you were in a school environment and had a high school and maybe a junior high and some elementary schools, you could set up each one of those as a unit, and if each one of those buildings had their own administrator, you wouldn't have to worry about the junior high administrator messing up the settings for the high school or vice versa. And so each unit is treated separately, and when you join computers, they are attached to the unit, and you can't see those computers from outside of the unit. And this is basically what the goal of virtual servers were in central control, but it allows you to set it up just inside of the single interface. There's also the notion of third-party administrators inside of Clean Slate Complete, and this allows administrators from other organizations or units to view and manage your settings if you give them permission to. You're in complete control of this, and you can invite them to view your settings or make changes, and then you can also remove them at any time. The most common use of this is for technical support, so that if you're having an issue with the configuration, you can make technical support a third-party administrator, or we can log in, see your settings, and then make changes to the configuration for you, and then you can remove us as a third-party administrator. The other place that it would be useful is, again, if we're in an organization that has a larger IT structure and you have different units, you might have, going back to the example of a high school and the junior high and elementary schools, you may have the junior high administrator ask the high school administrator to be a third-party administrator and look over his settings and possibly make changes. So again, it's something you're in complete control over, granting that access and also removing that access. With Clean Slate Complete, we've also redesigned the diagnostics, so the log of blocked and redirect operations can be filtered and searched, and this includes file, registry, desktop, and websites that have been blocked. And this is also remotely viewable if you're on the same network as the computer that you're trying to troubleshoot. You can connect remotely and get this information without having to actually go to the computer, and you can also do this while someone is logged into the computer. The installation for Clean Slate Complete supports imaging. You can run the installation silently, so if you want to script it, you can do that as well. It supports Windows 8.1, Windows 8, Windows 7, and it'll support Windows 10 as well. We do have free technical support, either by toll-free phone, email, or chat. You can get a hold of us and we'll help you out and answer any questions you may have. So those are some of the features. I'll take a look at a little bit how Clean Slate Complete works. Basically, you have the cloud with the settings stored in it. You have the administrator over here on the left that can log in and manage the settings, and then you have computers maybe on a private organizational network that are connecting and getting the settings, and then you may also have take-home devices, laptops, one-to-one computers, things like that, where those computers are on some other network but still have an internet connection and are able to get any changes you may have made to the security settings. And then also up here on the right is where you could have a third-party administrator that you can grant them access to log in and take a look at the settings as well and possibly make configuration changes for you. So to get started with Clean Slate Complete, you would go to the website app.fortresgrand.com, and there is an Evaluate Clean Slate button, and I've got some screenshots that show what this looks like. After you've signed up, you can log in and configure by, again, going to app.fortresgrand.com, and then you can download and install the Clean Slate Complete client from the app.fortresgrand website. So if you go to the app.fortresgrand website, this is what you would see. There's a button you can click on that is Evaluate Clean Slate Complete. When you click on that button, it will present you with a form asking for your organization name, and your email address. When you click on the sign up button, it will send you an email that looks like this, that just shows your organization contact name and has an activate button. When you click on this activate button, it will take you back to our website. And again, this is mostly just to verify that you're not a robot or a computer. And this is where you actually create your account. And so you specify the name you want to use to log in. This can be your email address if you want, or you can choose a traditional username. And then you create a password and set your time zone, and then that will go ahead and start your demo, and it's a 30-day demo of Clean Slate Complete that you can use on up to 10 computers. So let's go ahead and take a look at using Clean Slate Complete. We're going to go back to the desktop, excuse me, and I'm just going to go ahead and launch Internet Explorer and go to app.fortresgran. And again, this is the button to do the evaluation. I've already have an account set up, so I'm just going to go ahead and log in. And so I'm into the application now, and I have my Clean Slate Complete product that I can click on, and that will take me to where I can either configure the settings or download the installation. This also shows me information about my license and when it expires and how many clients I have licensed. If I click on the configure settings, this will take me into the actual Clean Slate configuration. There are some organizational things I wanted to show just before we configure the Clean Slate security settings. If I click on my organization name up here, I can look at my account and see who is an administrator. I can also add administrators that can log in and manage the Clean Slate settings. And this is also where I can invite a third-party administrator, either using an email address or their username, and it will send an invitation to them to log in and manage those settings. Underneath the account information is where you can create organizational units. So again, if you want to break up the administration of the computers and have them completely be separated into units, you can do that here. It is worth noting that when you create a unit, they're completely isolated and there's no sharing of information between the units. So if you attach a computer to, say, the high school unit, only administrators of that unit can see the computer, so they are completely separated. There's also an area where you can see your product licenses. In this case, I have my subscription for Clean Slate Complete. I can also see computers that have been attached. I can also look at tasks, and we do have an event log that logs information from computers and logging into the interface. So there's a lot of information that gets logged about if security has been disabled or enabled. Those kinds of things can be viewed inside of this interface as well. Underneath my name, I have a section where I can see my profile and also where I can change my password or log off. If I click back on applications, this will take me back to where I can actually configure Clean Slate. So I'm going to go ahead and click on configure settings, and this will open a Silverlight application. And so this is where I see my three main areas of Clean Slate Complete: the user experiences, which is the security, again, for the user; application compatibility, which are settings to allow applications to run regardless of the security that's been set up for user experiences; and then the computer groups. This is what it would look like by default when you first set up your account. You would have three user experiences set up. One is administrators, that's so security will be disabled for admins. One is for system threads, and then one is for everybody else. And so basically these three user experiences are built in, and the way Clean Slate Complete works is it applies the security in order, and it finds the first user experience that matches, and then that's the security for the user. So if I log in as an administrator, I would have security disabled. If I would log in as a restricted user, we would come through and we would see they're not an administrator, you're not part of the system, so you would get the all user security. If we take a look at the all user security by clicking on the tile, we have a lot of different areas where you can configure security. Again, we have the settings both from Fortres 101 and Clean Slate, and so you can choose any combination of restrictive or non-restrictive security that you want. Some of the general options for user experience are whether or not the security is enabled. So this would basically just turn on or off all the security settings. Also, whether or not to show the tray icon. So there is a tray icon that shows in the system tray that shows either a green up arrow if security is enabled or a red down arrow if security is disabled. And then you also have the ability to turn on or off tray notifications. So a tray notification would typically be when security has been updated, the settings have been updated from the web, it will display a little message saying that the settings have been updated. Below that, you have the section where it shows who this user experience applies to. In this case, it applies to everyone on all computers. So it doesn't matter what your username is, it doesn't matter what computer you're logging into, this user experience would apply to you. If we take a look at the actual settings, we have the Windows desktop settings, and this is where you can see the different areas of the Windows desktop that have been disabled or can be disabled. So we have used red overlays so you can see exactly what's blocked to try and give a better visual indication of what the user is going to be restricted to. So for example, I could enable Explorer windows, and now I'd be able to use an Explorer window, but I still wouldn't be able to use maybe the navigation buttons or the breadcrumb bars until I enable those options. So again, we have the Windows desktop settings here. There's also a Windows 8 section, which this will probably change and probably have another section added or something for Windows 10. But for the meantime, we do support Windows 8, and you can actually disable individual Windows 8 charms if you'd like. There's also the context menu for the start button that you can choose to enable or disable as well. There are a couple of options that didn't fit with either of those two screens, so we put them on the advanced settings page where you can disable the command prompt or printers and faxes. There's also easy ways to disable help file access or printing just by checking in the checkbox there. One of the things that is new that's not really in Fortres 101 or Clean Slate is the support for setting Windows policies without having to use Microsoft group policy and setting it up through Active Directory. Some users don't have a full Active Directory, but we wanted to give them the ability to configure group policies without having to have all that infrastructure in place. And so what will happen is if I just put in maybe a control panel, basically what you can do is turn on different policies, and what Clean Slate Complete will do is make it appear on the local computer as though this policy has been set. Group policies are just implemented as registry keys, and what Clean Slate Complete does is make it look like this registry key has been set through group policy. And so just by checking this, I can disable the display control panel. I can take advantage of a lot of the flexibility of the group policies without having to use Microsoft's group policy management. It does work in conjunction with group policies, so if you're using group policies already, you don't have to worry about this overriding it or anything like that. You don't have to set the policies in the same place. It's basically just a convenience for people who would like to use group policies but maybe don't have the IT experience to configure and set them up. Okay. There's also shutdown settings where you can control what users have access to when they go to shut the computer down. For example, if you don't want them to use user switching or standby or sleep or hibernate, you can turn those options off, so now all they can do is log off, shut down, and restart. And there are other options for disabling locking the computer or changing the password. We've also have an idle monitor, so you can say that I want the computer to be logged off after 15 minutes of idle time, and set that up, and it will monitor and look for that idle time to happen. I should point out too, when you're done making changes, there is a save button, and you want to go ahead and click on the save icon, and that will save the changes, and then other computers will be able to pick up those changes as well. When we look at hard drive settings, there are different settings that you can configure. You could have it clean up the hard drive, or prevent saving, basically make the hard drive read-only, or allow saving to the hard drive. And then there's options about whether or not you want to protect executable files from being changed, or if you want to block new programs and not let users download programs from the internet to the hard drive. And so there's flexibility where I can go and use non-restrictive security and say that I want it to clean up the desktop, my documents, and other profile folders as well as the hard drive. And then if I want to add other file-specific settings, I can click on the Add Other File and list any file or use wildcards and maybe say star.txt, I want to be no access, hit accept, and now that's in there. I can click on it to edit the setting, and maybe that I meant that to be RTF files, and I wanted those to be just read-only. So I can make changes in there. If I want to delete that, I would just click in the right corner of that tile, so where it's selected, and then choose delete, and that removes the file from the interface. And again, I can hit save, and that will save those settings. We also have a section for USB and FireWire drive security, and so you can choose to prevent users from running programs from removable drives, so they can't bring in a thumb drive and run programs from it. If you disable flash drives, when they would plug in a flash drive, they wouldn't be assigned a drive letter, they wouldn't be able to save or anything because it wouldn't be mounted onto the system. In this model where I just have it preventing running those programs, you can still open and save documents, you just wouldn't be able to run programs. And again, if there are other files that you wanted to specifically allow or configure on USB drives, you can do that through the Add Other File option. And the last option under the file and registry settings are the actual registry setting and the way you want that to behave. You can either allow users to save to the registry, which would be the normal mode, or if you were going to use Clean Slate and wanted things cleaned up when the user logs off, you can select to have it cleaned up when they log off. The application restrictions is where I can restrict the user from running programs that are on the computer. We have it broken down into start menu programs where all you have to do is just put a check and you can kind of go through a replica of the start menu and expand it and find programs. And the nice part about this is that you don't have to know that the full path to Photoshop Elements is in Elements 12 Organizer, Photoshop Elements 12, etc. You can also see the different control panel applets and block these. These are all the .cpl files, and basically this would prevent those programs from running as well. So if you didn't want anybody to get into the advanced power, you can do that, or maybe disable the display settings, you can do that here as well. And then we also have the administrative tools. So these are mostly the things that plug into the Microsoft Management Console. So if you didn't want anybody to have access to the DNS or some of these other ones, you can lock those as well. And then under all programs, it shows everything that I've blocked from any of the other windows for blocking programs. And it also lets me see, based on publishers, products, and programs, what is available. So if I wanted to maybe look at Google and Google Chrome, I could prevent Chrome from running through this window as well. Again, to remove anything from this list, I can just put a check in the upper right corner and hit delete programs, and that will remove it from the list. Okay, we'll go ahead and look at the other settings, just three more settings groups of settings to go through. The internet filtering is where I can configure whether I want to enable internet filtering or not. I can do this either as a list of sites that are allowed or a list of sites that are denied. And if I also want to, I can disable browsing with different browsers as well. When I add a site, we actually have the ability to add the site and associate it with a specific browser. So if you didn't want someone to go to google.com for whatever reason, you could either do it for all browsers, or you could specifically say, I don't want them to go there with Internet Explorer. We've had some customers that wanted to restrict people from going to maybe Google Maps with IE, but they want them to be able to go there with Chrome. And so you can do things like that inside of the interface as well. And you can import a list of sites in here. This isn't a content filter where you can say shopping sites or gaming sites, but it's a specific list of URLs you want to either allow or deny. There's also kiosk mode where you can say as soon as the machine starts and the user logs in, I want a specific application or website to launch, and then that will take care of launching that when they log in. And then something that's a little bit new in Clean Slate Complete is the ability to block different keystrokes. So if you were setting up a kiosk application, a lot of times you don't want users to be able to add things to the favorites or show the history and things like that. So you can configure those keystrokes to be blocked as well. But you don't have to only use that in kiosk mode. You can use it anywhere you'd like. Now, there's a lot of settings that you can configure, and as I said before, we do have templates. So the way you would use a template is you can go to Import Settings, and you can either choose the Fortres 1017 default settings or Clean Slate. And so what happens is if I choose the Clean Slate settings and choose Import, now when I look at the Windows desktop, everything is available. The user can use it. It's not restricted at all. And if I look at my hard drive settings, everything is set to be cleaned up when the user logs off. If I were to go back and say I really would rather have the restrictive side of Fortres 101, I can import those settings, and now everything on the desktop is going to be locked down. The hard drive is going to allow saving but prevent changes to any executable files. And so it's basically like using Fortres 101. And then I can use that as a starting point to configure exactly the type of user security that I want. And again, this is all under the user experiences. When you have your user experiences configured, if you want to add a new one, you can click on New, and that will create a new user experience. User experiences have to be active in order to be applied to a user. If I don't check the Activate button, this user experience won't apply to anybody. It'll just be skipped over when we're trying to decide which user experience a user should receive. So I'd want to make sure to activate it, and then I can choose whether I want to enable security, and I can choose that I want to apply it to maybe the people in accounting. So maybe this is for accounting users, and I have different user experience security set up for them. I can also set this for a group of computers, and we'll come back to this after we talk about computer groups. Okay, we'll move on and talk about application compatibility. This is, again, where you would set up exceptions to the security of the user experience so that your applications can run properly. There's two different ways you can do that. You can either click on the Add Application and manually configure the application compatibility, or you can browse through the gallery and download pre-configured settings. A common one would be for antivirus, and so let's just look for McAfee. So if I click on this will give me the settings for McAfee. I can select it and choose Install. And what that will do is it will pull down the settings for McAfee and put them into my application compatibility settings without me having to enter anything. So just by browsing from the gallery, I was able to get the settings for the program files, the common files, McAfee, the program data, and all these different folders are configured and allow me to exempt any of the McAfee applications from all the file and registry security. So it's very easy to do that. If you have something else that you want to add, you can add it yourself using the add option. And so maybe this is just going to be, just for the sake of demo, Notepad. And so what I could do is add a program, and that's just going to be notepad.exe. And so I accept that. And now I can exempt Notepad from all file and registry security if I wanted to. Again, I don't know that I would want to do this, but just to show you how the interface works and what you can do. And then you can also, and if you don't want to exempt it from all file security or all registry security, you can leave those options unchecked. And I could add, maybe, since we're dealing with Notepad, just star.txt files should be writable. And so now that allows Notepad to have full access to star.txt, even if the user experience for that user when they're logged in is to have the C drive be read-only. So if you're familiar with Fortres 101 or Clean Slate, application compatibility is kind of like the privileged applications in Fortres 101 or the exempt applications in Clean Slate. So this user experiences are the security for the user. Application compatibility are settings that you need for your applications to run properly. And then finally, the third group over here are the computer groups. By default, there is an all computers group that will list the computers that you've attached to the cloud. When you run the installation, you sign in with a username and password, and that will attach the computer to your account in the cloud. So after you've gone and created your account and have a username and password to log into app.fortresgrand, you use that same username and password to log in when you're installing the software so that it can be attached to your account. Computer groups are fairly straightforward. They have a name and description, and you can set the update interval. So this is how often these computers are going to check in to look for changed settings. The default is 4 hours, but you can go down as low as 5 minutes or as high as 24 hours. You can also have tasks associated with the group. So if I wanted to schedule a task for all of the computers, I would click on the plus, and this will open up my assign task window, and in here I can either choose from an existing task that I've got configured, like maybe reboot at 8 o'clock, or I can add my own task. And so I'm going to add a new task, and I'm just going to call this to display a message. We'll just display the closing message in this case. And so I can just choose to send a message, and the message is this lab will close in 15 minutes. And this is just an information message, and I'm going to have it run at a scheduled time, and I'm going to have that run every day at, let's go with 7 o'clock. And I can say when that starts and when it ends, or I can say that it never ends. And I can also have different options. I can say that it runs every week on maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And so I can do the accept here and choose this and add it. And so now at 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, it will display a message on these computers letting them know that the lab will be closing. There are lots of other tasks you can do. If I go back, you can have it reboot at a certain time. You can also have it run a program. When you go to run a program, you can give it the executable to run and any command line parameters. You can tell it if you want it to run as system. There are options to pre-cache the executable file. So if you had a large file that you wanted to run and you wanted that to run exactly at 7 o'clock, typically what you'd want to do is have the file already on the machine, and the pre-cache executable file option will pull the file down and have it already on the machine, so when 7 o'clock hits, it will just go ahead and run. You can also limit the download bandwidth, so if you don't want all of the computers chewing up all of the bandwidth while it's downloading it, you could set this up to be 512K of bandwidth, and so it will ration the download and not chew up all of your bandwidth. You can also run scripts, so you can do either PowerShell or VB scripts, and one of the neat things about scripts is you can actually have it capture the output of the script, and that will display the output from the script in the web interface. So what would happen is whenever a computer runs this script, Clean Slate Complete will capture the output, send it back up to the cloud, and associate it with the computer so that you can see exactly what the output was. And so it gives you a lot of flexibility on things as far as doing script and doing management through the interface. Again, we have the ability to turn the computer on, do wake on LAN, or log off, shut down, and restart. So those are some of the things with tasks. You can also click on the computer icon, and this will show you the details for the computer. So if I click on one, it'll show me the manufacturer and the model, what version of Windows, serial number, IP address, last time it checked in. It'll show me any groups that it belongs to, and it'll also show any tasks that are set up for that computer to run. To create a new group, I would just go back to the main page, and I can create a group, and we'll just call this the webinar computer. And so what I can do is just go and click on the Add Computer and select the computer for the webinar. And now what I can do is assign tasks just to this group, or I can also use it to create a user experience and use it that way. So if I wanted to take this new experience and instead of having it apply to all computers, I can have it only apply to the webinar computer. And maybe in that case, I want to remove this and just have it apply to everyone. So now anybody that logs in on the webinar computer or any member of the webinar computer group will get this security. So let's just call this the webinar experience. And so in this case, I can use computer groups to isolate a user experience to just a particular set of computers and a particular set of users. So that's basically configuring the Clean Slate Complete interface. There is a local security interface. Let me minimize the web browser. They look similar. They have the same kind of look and feel to it. If I use the Control-Shift-F, that will bring up the local security interface. And I'm going to go ahead and log in here as well. And this allows me to control the local computer and maybe turn security on or off. In this case, I've got security turned off since we're doing a webinar, but I have that ability to turn the security on, as well as view any events that have happened in the event log. I can also see any file diagnostics, which again, since security is disabled, I don't have any of those. I can also launch some tools. So if I had security enabled and I wanted to have access to a command prompt, I could do that. I can also click on a button and tell it I want to update the settings now. And so you can see that it's syncing the settings right now. And in just a second, it will have updated the settings and let me know that it's done. So there is still a local security interface where you can turn security on and off and see diagnostic information as well. So if you have any questions, I'll go ahead and answer those now. If you would like more information, you can give us a call on our toll-free number and hit option 1 for sales or option 2 for technical support. You can also email sales@FortresGrand or email support@FortresGrand if you have technical questions. You can also do an online chat by going to our website and clicking in the upper right corner, and that will connect you with a support representative who can also answer your questions. So I'll go ahead and take any questions. If you don't have any questions, I appreciate your time and hope you have a great afternoon. Thank you.